Leaders of Tomorrow Masterclass, a series of digital first conversations that we do here on India's largest daily running platform for small businesses. I'm Sunanda Jayasseelan. Today, we're bringing you highlights and takeaways from a masterclass that we did talking about the entrance exam industry. What is making it competitive? What can you as an entrepreneur keep in mind when it comes to this industry? What are really the changing realities of this industry? All of that being discussed with our guest today. People who need no introduction, for anyone who's had any sort of formal higher education would perhaps know both our guests today. Let me introduce them. First up, Dr. Vidya, Pro-Chancellor, Symbiosis International University. She's also the chair for FICCI's Higher Education Committee. And Vishal Badani, Managing Partner, International Learning Warehouse. Let me take my next question, and this one is coming to us from Santosh Kumar. His question is this industry regulated by the government? If not, should it be? What kind of regulation should we look at? Open to both of you. Dr. Vidya, would you like to take this first?
I don't think the coaching industry is regulated by an authority like this. And I feel that it should be, because, if it's such a huge scale that we need to also look at the quality, the kind of quality of teaching that is done here, because I've heard, and I'm not sure whether, what I've heard is right, that there are some coaching classes that also dupe students for several lakhs of rupees where, not proper training or coaching is given. And then at the end of probably a semester or the end of the year, the student realizes that he or she could have probably joined another class with the same kind of money, because the teaching fees the coaching class fees are very high. In fact, many of them, those fees are much higher than what colleges and universities charge the students as tuition fees. So I feel it should be a regulated sector. How it can be done, I cannot really define, but certainly it should be a regulated sector.
Okay. Vishal, anything to add?
In fact, I would like to add to the point that Dr. Vidya made. I believe there is huge control on the institutions in India. I think they should be, especially private institutions should be allowed to kind of invest more and take more out of the system. And that's just fine, very, very frankly. But again, the coaching industry, no, it's not regulated. There has to be regulation that should come in. It's a 50,000 crore industry in India. Only test prep is 50,000 crore. And by 2026, we are expecting it to kind of go up to say 75,000 crores. That's massive. And besides, there is a human side to it, which like rightly so Dr. Vidya also mentioned, right? So there should be regulations, and I don't know how the government is hoping to do that, but there should be regulations.
Sure. Speaking of the human side of it, our next questions come to us from Ashok Kumar. He says he's a partner at Anant Enterprises Limited. Ashok Kumar says some coaching institutions are enrolling students from class 6 onwards. Don't you think they're almost blackmailing parents and students and spoiling the student life of a student? Vishal?
Yeah. So I don't endorse that thought that it's too early for students to kind of be enrolling, especially for entrance tests and right since the start. I think a lot of this education should really come through the school and the environment at home, and maybe a large number of other activities that the students could be asked to kind of undertake while they are growing. It's to do about those 8, 10, 12 life lesson related activities, right from sports to performing arts or whatever that might be. And these could really instill in them a lot of confidence to do well in the future. Not only academics is necessary, but it's from class 6, it's too early. I would think they need to kind of start doing this after class 9 and not even enroll really. They just need sessions to understand how their future path has to grow.
Okay. Dr. Vidya?
So even I'm against coaching classes starting so early. In fact, school children should not be, joining any kind of coaching class. It is important for schools themselves to actually teach the students in a manner that they don't feel compelled to join a coaching class at all. And I think it's the pressure on parents, the pressure that they bring on their own children, because it's also become so prestigious to say that, your child has joined a coaching class from 7th standard or 8th standard for a JEE or IIT entrance exam. So I really don't think this pressure should come up. I mean, during my times, I am a medical doctor and I joined, the government medical college, and we all joined the medical colleges based on our 12th standard marks. Now, even at that point in time, there were, the boards were different, it wasn't the same board. Probably the mobility was not as much as what it is today. When we look at student mobility, it was never across states. Today, it is so much across states that there are students from Delhi who want admissions in Pune colleges and vice versa. So I think an overall structure of what the whole education system entrance, or eligibility criteria for entrance into universities and colleges should be thought of, because this is really getting, the students really taxed and a lot of stress on students, which I think we need to find some different solution for.
In fact, it was quite interesting. I saw a hoarding recently for a school that said, it was a primary school that said it was only entirely online. And whatever may be, and there are definite merits to online education, but at such a young age, having a school that's only online and removing that physical touch, up for debate, I guess.
Yeah.
This next question is coming to us from Sanjay Kumar. He says he is a security tech entrepreneur and head of IT consultant network at NAS Technologies. So his question says, what are the opportunities when it comes to entrance exams and competitive exams for educational institutions and startups? So, because the entrance exam market and industry is so huge, any one or two specific areas you would want for our entrepreneurs to focus on, perhaps?
Yeah, but Sunanda, the whole coaching class industry is exactly for this. I mean, they're preparing students for entrance exams to universities and colleges. So I really don't know what the question is all about, because there are successful coaching institutions that train students into these, attempting entrance exams. So the more number of entrance exams, the more number of coaching classes. So there is a huge space. As I think Vishal said, it's a huge market. So
Sure,
there are opportunities.
In that huge market, any specific areas or verticals that are emerging that you would want our entrepreneurs to keep an eye on?
Vishal would be the right person to answer this question.
So by itself, like Dr. Vidya said, coaching is purely a business. Okay, I mean, it's great that great teachers can still impart skills and education if that is taken seriously by the students at the same time. But getting it all online makes a huge difference. I see there is going to be a huge disruption in terms of students being able to take everything online, and pay per requirement model has to come in at some point. So whatever requirement there is, not to kind of study the entire curriculum or portion. So paper requirement is, I think, the future that's going to take this up, and it will be useful for everyone in the industry, because it will reduce the cost, like I said, but at the same time give exactly what the student wants through professionals in the industry.
Okay. Let's talk about also the funding that is coming into some of these institutions that are closely involved in the entrance exam space and in the coaching industry. And it seems like the funding action is picking up. Vishal, maybe to you first. For an entrepreneur who's saying, where do I start? How do I pitch for funding? Whom should I look to? There are any questions on that side of the business? Anything that you can give them?
Oh, there is now. Huge funding is coming into this space. In fact, like I said in one of the points before, there is huge consolidation that has happened. The opportunity for even the small investors to kind of put in funds, which is as small as 10,000 rupees, is possible through online funding. So there are companies that actually facilitate this, and a large number of people are actually putting forth their ideas, putting it on white paper, and they are getting the kind of funding. So you're actually giving them equity by selling the shares out, even in the private placement space. So it's huge, absolutely. So just connect with any of the online angel investors for that matter, and you'll have a whole bunch of ideas from them to kind of make this up, and they'll train you to do that. It's pretty simple these days.
Sure. Dr. Vidya?
When we look at students who spend the kind of money, for just getting through the entrance exams, even for symbiosis, I mean, the amount of money that they spend, the amount of time that they spend is huge. I mean, look at the industry and look at the number of students in India. The market for education is so huge that for any business proposition, I think this is one of the best markets in India. So whereas higher education is provided by trusts, and you can't have a company to provide university education or college education. You have to register yourself as a trust. But whereas, as I said, coaching industry is unregulated, and therefore you have these companies, which establish coaching classes, and therefore I don't see any reason why it should not be treated like any other industry. And therefore you have investors to invest, not only investors to invest, but also people who can train, in this kind of business. So it's a totally a huge space for new entrepreneurs. Who want to establish in this space, and as well as a great market as well.
Sure. Let me take in our second poll question. It's popping up on your screens. Should academic institutes give more importance to in-person classes and hybrid learning post-pandemic? And I will take the responses in just a moment. I'm going to slip into a short break. On that note, we're back in just a moment. Welcome back with us here on Leaders of Tomorrow Masterclass. I was just talking about primary classes, which seem to, at least the trend seems to be that, a lot of it is moving to becoming only online. Are students really learning from that? And for an entrepreneur who's perhaps asking how much of my entrance in coaching should be perhaps an online model, how much of it should be offline, what should I be looking at a hybrid model? What would you have to say? Vishal, to you first.
Oh, I would go with the hybrid model as long as it brings in more value, which frankly could not be taught at an institution, because there could be resource issues and there could be issues with finding the right trainers as well. So I think a 70-30 approach, but in India, I think given the culture, given the diversity, it's always nice to kind of have classroom studies. That makes a huge difference. When students get in touch with the lecturers, they end up selecting their mentors at some point, and who become their moving guides for a very long time. So classroom-based learning, absolutely a must. Max, I would think 30% should be online, otherwise remaining has to be. And that too, when you cannot have those resources to kind of teach those kids those things that are not available,
The response to our second poll, 83% of you have said yes, 17% of you have said no, and this is essentially asking about the online versus the offline model or the hybrid model, which our guests are also agreeing with, that a hybrid model essentially is the best thing that you can look at. All right, we are running out of time, but let's talk about also, this is a repeat question that is coming to us from Neha Chaudhary, and she wants to know from Vishal, how could we perhaps focus on your advice for students on focusing on taking competitive exams globally? We've been talking about sitting for domestic exams. How about international exams?
So for those students who are only wishing or looking at studying abroad, I also tell them to kind of look at the top institutions in India at the same time. Very frankly, the competitive exams in India are enormously difficult if you go to see. Now, I'm not trying to demoralize anyone, but they are equally difficult when you consider the tests that allow you to kind of study abroad. So someone who's looking at studying a GMAT or an SAT or an ACT or a GRE, if you've kind of done any of the entrance tests in India, trust me, you would have literally studied most part of what is required by those tests as well. You might just need to put in another extra month and a half, and you're still good to kind of go. So you can take up those tests, book those tests, and give those tests in a matter of the next couple of months. It should not be very difficult.
Okay. Dr. Vidya?
Yeah, the entrance exams in India are very difficult. In fact, we are the entrance exam providers. So let me tell you that we try and make it more difficult every year. And in fact, it's a joke when I keep telling my, my people, my faculty members that, don't just make it so difficult that, students just don't want to give because it's very, very difficult. But as Vishal very rightly said, if people, it's like, if you can drive in India, I'm sure you can drive in any part of the world. So it's like that. If you can give an entrance exam in India, I'm sure the SAT and the GMAT would be much simpler than just attempting it the first time. And why not keep options of both India as well as the world open, and why just concentrate on, entrance exams, and, to study abroad. Maybe, you may not have the luck to go abroad, and then you might land up here and you've not given. I've seen so many students who, attempt for the SAT or want to go and study abroad, and simply either don't get admissions or get admissions and feel homesick and come back. Now, if you haven't given the entrance exam here, no university, at least where entrance exams are compulsory, will take you. So it's best, I would advise students to keep both options open.
In fact, can I add a sentence to that? So I think one big reason is, of course, people want to kind of go abroad. They want to check that life experience and maybe a whole lot of other things. But I think one of the biggest, another big reason that students are going abroad is because they're not getting enough seats in India. Now, there's a parity between institutions. So when you actually consider a ranked institution somewhere abroad and someone which is ranked, say, 15th and another one which is ranked 21st, there's hardly any difference between those institutions, very frankly. But here, with due respect, I mean, if you don't make it to the top ones, inclusive of symbiosis at some point, when you kind of just go down, the parity between institutions from the 15th rank to the 16th is like jumping 50 ranks below, So students are desperate to kind of find a better deal somewhere abroad. And abroad education has become more affordable, frankly. So some of these programs abroad are reasonably priced as compared to Indian top MBA programs. So you find it better.
So Nanda, I'd just like to take this conversation forward by what Vishal said. Now the Indian government has come up with the National Institutional Ranking Framework. So, the drop that which Vishal is talking about is, is below 100. So the top 100 institutions that are ranked, I think they're safe to say that they are in one bracket, and at least the top 50 certainly. And therefore, students can choose institutions based on this NIRF ranking.
No, in relative terms. So the number of test takers in India is so massive. I mean, our number of test takers is equivalent to the population of some European countries each year.
Sure. All right. On that note, I have to take closing comments. We're running out of time. Your advice for an entrepreneur who's watching today's masterclass to say, this is what I'd like for you to keep in mind about the entire education, edtech space, as well as specifically to the entrance exam and industry. If you're an entrepreneur in this space, what advice do you want to leave them with? To you first, Vishal.
Oh, make it big, make it really, really nice, but don't lose out of the human element in the entire system. Make money, but make sure that you kind of deliver everything that you have in your arsenal to be able to kind of ensure the next generation has a fantastic career.
Dr. Vidya?
Yeah, so to all the entrepreneurs, I think education is a great market for you all, because it not only, helps you flourish in your business, but, there is a humane touch to it. And you feel nice when you give career options to students and they, succeed in the career options that you all have given them. So I think it's nice. It's a market that is lucrative. It's a market where you will feel satisfied and also give satisfaction to your customers.
Completely out of time on today's masterclass. If you have any feedback for us, as always, we love hearing from you. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good night.